were happy.
Oh, not even a little bit.
No, I mean, in fact, she actually designed your brain to make sure you suffer because, well, suffering is exactly what kept your ancestors alive.
Right. It's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. So today we're going to look under the hood of your own misery. Welcome to this deep dive. We're taking you on a really thorough exploration into the biological and neurological roots of your daily frustrations.
Yeah, it's such a profound synthesis we're looking at today.
It really is. We are drawing from some fascinating source material that bridges, evolutionary biology, complex neuroscience, and ancient Buddhist philosophy, all to explain why your mind does what it does.
And we are looking at the actual physical architecture of your brain to understand your most abstract emotional struggles. I mean, the underlying premise here is that if you can diagnose the mechanics of your anxiety or your inadequacy, well, you could begin to strip those feelings of their power.
That's the goal. The mission today is to decode the ancient survival machinery humming inside your head right now. And to do that, we have to look at the grand timeline.
A really grand timeline.
Right. The evolutionary biologist Theodosius Dobzhansky famously said, nothing in biology makes sense except in light of evolution. So, I mean, what does having a lizard, squirrel, monkey brain actually mean for someone who's just, trying to get through their workday?
Well, if we want to understand our minds, we really have to look at how they were built. I mean, evolution doesn't just start from scratch.
It's a renovation project.
Exactly. It builds on pre-existing capabilities. So the researcher Paul MacLean mapped this out. Inside your head, you essentially have a reptilian brainstem at the very bottom, and that handles basic life functions.
Like breathing and heart rate.
Right. And then on top of that sits a paleomammalian or early mammalian middle layer. That part processes complex emotions. Finally, that is all covered by a neomammalian modern cortex that handles logic and planning.
So that's the lizard, squirrel, monkey stack.
That's the stack. And as you mentioned at the start, this stack was absolutely not engineered for your peace of mind. It was engineered strictly to pass on your genes.
Okay, so over hundreds of millions of years, our ancestors developed 3 fundamental survival strategies using that specific brain stack.
Yeah, 3 distinct strategies.
First, creating separations like forming boundaries between me and the world. Second, maintaining stability, so keeping our physical and mental systems in a healthy equilibrium. And third, approaching opportunities while avoiding threats.
Basically chasing carrots and dodging sticks.
Chasing carrots and dodging sticks, exactly.
And those strategies, they worked brilliantly for keeping us alive as a species. But there is a massive evolutionary catch here.
There's always a catch.
Right. To motivate us to actually use these strategies, evolution created neural networks that produce pain and distress whenever these conditions fail. When boundaries break, when stability is shaken, or when threats loom, we suffer.
And the dark comedy of the human condition is that these conditions are practically guaranteed to fail?
They always fail. Everything changes.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I know it's really easy to sit here on a microphone and confidently say, the universe doesn't operate on separation and we are all one with everything.
It sounds great on a bumper sticker.
Right, but practically speaking, I do feel separate. Like my bank account is mine. If I stub my toe, it hurts me, it doesn't hurt you. How does this high-level philosophy about having no boundaries actually reconcile with our daily reality?
Well, the feeling of separation is just a very, very convincing illusion. Your brain's parietal lobes, which are located at the upper back of your head, they literally manufacture that feeling of, I am separate and independent.
So it's a navigational tool?
Exactly. It is a useful navigational tool for moving through the physical world. But the source material compares the boundary between your body and the world to a picket fence.
Oh, a picket fence.
Yeah, think about a physical picket fence. It marks a property line, sure, but wind, rain, insects, and sunlight, they just pass right through it constantly. The food you eat, the air you breathe, the social cues you absorb, the microorganisms you host, they are constantly flowing through the quote-unquote boundary of your body. You are actually a highly porous system, just masquerading as an isolated object.
That's wild. And if we look at the sheer causality of our existence, that illusion of isolation completely falls apart. The text gives this staggering example of human interdependence that I couldn't believe.
The Archduke Ferdinand one.
Yes, the author points out that he is only alive today because a Serbian nationalist assassinated Archduke Ferdinand in 1914.
Which triggered World War I.
Right, which eventually shifted global populations and led to his parents meeting at an army dance in 1944.
It's amazing when you trace it back. The chain of causality extends infinitely backward.
And it goes way past human history. The oxygen in your lungs and the iron in your blood were literally forged inside exploding stars.
Literally stardust.
Yeah, 9 billion years of cosmic accidents and supernova explosions had to happen in the exact sequence they did just to make the hands you are using to hold your phone right now.
It's mind-boggling.
When you pull back the lens that far, obsessing over our isolated little egos just seems absurd. We are built from exploded stardust and historical accidents.
They are. And because we cannot maintain that illusion of separation, and because we certainly cannot maintain perfect stability in a universe governed by change, our brains have to rely on a relentless internal alarm system to guide our every move.
Maintaining equilibrium internally is just wildly chaotic. Just looking at the molecular level, the text mentions a single serotonin neuron.
Right, the firing rate.
Yeah. When it fires, it spills vesicles of serotonin into your synapses, but it's firing 10 times a second.
It's so fast.
Your molecular machinery has to constantly manufacture, spill, and vacuum up these chemicals just to keep your mood somewhat stable. It is a wildly turbulent system trying desperately to impose static order.
And due to all that turbulence, your brain uses what Buddhists call the feeling tone, or what Western psychology calls hedonic tone. Your amygdala essentially tags every single experience you have as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral.
It's like a rapid-fire sorting system.
Exactly. It is an incredibly blunt, efficient way for the brain to tell you what to do. Approach the pleasant, avoid the unpleasant, and just ignore the neutral.
Imagine you are walking in the woods, right? And you see a curvy shape on the ground. The visual input hits your occipital cortex, which sends the image in two different directions.
The high road and the low road.
Right. One path goes to the hippocampus to check its database of known dangers. It flags curvy shape and sends a high priority alert to the amygdala.
And the amygdala just rings the alarm bell immediately.
It dumps stress hormones into your bloodstream. You literally jump back before your slower, more analytical prefrontal cortex has time to process the image and realize it's just a stick.
That jump first, think later mechanism is what kept our ancestors from stepping on venomous snakes.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. And notice the rapid shift in feeling tones there. You start with neutral walking, instantly switch to unpleasant fear, and then you're flooded with pleasant relief when you realize it is just a stick.
We are just ping-ponging between these tones all day.
Our lives are entirely governed by them. When we approach pleasant things, the carrots, we are driven by dopamine. Dopamine creates the desire, the craving. And then when we finally get the carrot, pleasure chemicals like opioids, endorphins, and oxytocin flood our synapses.
So what does this all mean for something as mundane as, say, taking the third bite of a cookie?
The cookie problem.
Yeah, because dopamine makes me want the cookie desperately, but by the time I am chewing that third bite, the pleasure chemicals are already fading. The actual reward rarely matches the intensity of the desire.
And that right there reveals a fundamental flaw in the approaching opportunity strategy. The state of desiring itself is subtly uncomfortable.
It is. It's an itch.
It is a tension, an itch that demands to be scratched. Once you've fulfilled the desire and eat the cookie, the reward fades rapidly, leaving you needing another hit to feel good again.
So it's a treadmill.
A total treadmill. Experiences are entirely unreliable as a baseline for lasting happiness because they are transient. They always end.
Yeah. It calls to mind the analogy from the Thai meditation master Ajahn Chah. He suggests that if getting upset by pain is like being bitten by a snake, grasping for pleasure is like grabbing the snake's tail.
That's a great image.
Yeah, you might feel like you are in control of the situation for a few moments, but eventually, the snake is going to turn around and bite you anyway. Both avoiding and approaching eventually lead to suffering.
And if we look closely at human behavior, we see a heavy imbalance. While both carrots and sticks cause suffering, our brains are obsessively, disproportionately focused on the sticks.
We're terrified of the sticks.
We are, and this brings us to the brain's negativity bias.
In the evolutionary game, sticks carry vastly more weight than carrots. I mean, if our mammalian ancestors were running around a real-life Jurassic Park 70 million years ago...
Which is basically what it was.
Right. Missing a chance to eat some fruit just meant they were hungry for an afternoon. They could just try again tomorrow. But if they failed to duck a predator, they were dead. The game was over permanently.
The individuals who survived to pass on their genes were the ones who paid hyper attention to negative experiences. And our modern brains still dodge these ancient sticks, using several deep-seated mechanisms.
Like what?
Well, for instance, consider your brain's default resting state. When you aren't focused on a specific task, your brain defaults to a scanning network. It's constantly looking for threats.
Oh, so that explains that low-level background hum of vigilance and anxiety.
Exactly. We are also incredibly sensitive to negative social cues. Our amygdala perceives fearful or angry faces much faster than it registers happy ones.
Wow.
And once we log a negative experience, it takes priority in our memory storage. The text describes this perfectly. The brain is Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones.
Velcro for the bad, Teflon for the good. That is so painfully accurate. And that Velcro effect heavily impacts our relationships, doesn't it?
Oh, massively. Psychological studies consistently show that the negative trumps the positive by a wide margin.
I read about the ratio. It's wild.
The 5-to-1 ratio. It generally takes about 5 positive interactions to overcome the emotional weight of a single negative interaction with a partner.
5 to 1.
Yeah, we hold on to the lingering traces of a harsh word long after we've forgotten a compliment, and that just creates these vicious cycles of pessimism.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Over the last 3 million years, the human brain tripled in size.
A huge growth spurt.
Right, we developed this massive advanced prefrontal cortex. But instead of using that new real estate to achieve total inner peace, much of it went into upgrading our capacity to worry.
Sadly, yes.
We basically evolved a high-definition virtual reality simulator inside our own heads.
Yeah, the upper middle prefrontal cortex continuously runs mini-movies. I mean, for early humans, running simulations of past events helped them learn from mistakes, and forecasting the future helped them plan for the winter.
So it was a massive evolutionary advantage back then.
It was. But today, the environment has changed completely, and the simulator hasn't adapted at all.
It pulls you completely out of the present moment. You can be sitting in a perfectly safe, comfortable room, and suddenly your mind is 1,000 miles away, trapped in a mini-movie about a stressful work email.
And this simulator is a terrible, highly biased director.
The worst director.
Right. It exaggerates how great future pleasures will be. It runs entirely on limiting beliefs about what you can achieve, and it endlessly replays past pain. And every time it replays that pain, it physically strengthens the neural connections to that trauma.
So because our internal simulator is constantly running and so heavily biased toward the negative, we actually end up manufacturing our own pain out of thin air.
We project threats that literally don't exist.
And this introduces one of the most powerful concepts in the source material, which is the Buddhist concept of the 2 darts.
The 2 darts concept completely shifts how you view discomfort. The first dart represents inescapable physical or mental pain.
Like the immediate burn of pulling your hand away from a hot stove.
Or the sudden sorrow you feel when someone you love gets hurt. As long as you have a nervous system and a beating heart, first darts are going to hit you. You can't avoid them.
But the suffering comes from the second dart. And the second dart is the reaction we throw at ourselves in response to the first one.
Exactly, the reaction.
Imagine you are walking to the bathroom in the dark and you stub your toe hard on a chair. The sudden, intense physical pain, that's the first dart.
Ouch. Yes.
But the immediate thought that follows, who moved that stupid chair? Why am I always so clumsy? My whole morning is ruined. The anger, the blame, the self-pity, those are the second darts, and we hurl them at ourselves voluntarily.
What's fascinating here is how these second darts create spiraling, vicious cycles, especially in our relationships. You throw a second dart of outward anger at your partner about the chair.
Right, why did you leave this here?
Exactly, and that unwarranted anger acts as a brand new first dart landing on them.
Right.
Which triggers their own defensive second darts, which they throw back at you.
Suddenly, you are in a massive, relationship-threatening fight, all spiraling outward from a single stubbed toe.
And sometimes, there isn't even a first dart to begin with.
Wait, really? No first dart at all?
None. Consider walking into your house after a long day and seeing coats thrown on the sofa and clutter on the kitchen counter.
Okay, a messy room.
Is there any inherent physical pain in a messy room? Did someone drop a brick on your foot? No. There is zero first dart. But we immediately start hurling second darts of greed, like demanding the house look like a magazine cover, and hatred getting furious at our family for leaving it that way.
So we manufacture the suffering entirely on our own.
Completely on our own.
Yeah.
And we manage to do it with positive experiences as well.
Oh, like imposter syndrome.
Exactly. Someone gives you a genuine, heartfelt compliment. It is a purely positive situation. But your simulator kicks in, and your internal monologue says, they're just being polite, they don't really know me, I'm actually a fraud.
You have just thrown a second dart of deep shame at a moment of praise.
It really is a form of madness.
It is. But these second darts are not just, abstract philosophical thoughts floating in the ether. They are deeply physically embodied. When we throw second darts, we are triggering a massive physiological cascade.
We are doing actual damage to our bodies.
The suffering cascades through your body via 2 main systems. First, the sympathetic nervous system, or SNS, and second, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPAA.
It's a mouthful. But to understand how mechanical this is, think of your amygdala as a highly sensitive smoke detector.
Okay, smoke detector.
When that second dart hits, the smoke detector goes off. It sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which acts like a 911 dispatcher.
And the dispatcher wakes up the brainstem, which floods your brain with stimulating norepinephrine. Your SNS readies your major muscle groups for a literal physical fight to the death.
Meanwhile, the hypothalamus dispatcher prompts the pituitary gland to signal your adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are basically the fire trucks, flooding the streets of your bloodstream with epinephrine and cortisol.
Your heart rate spikes, your pupils dilate, your digestion shuts down, your body is preparing to fight a tiger, all because you saw a pair of shoes left on the sofa.
The long-term effects of that cortisol are devastating. It acts like a runaway accelerator on the amygdala, making you even more reactive and sensitive to future threats.
It's a feedback loop.
Yes. But maybe the most concerning part is how cortisol actively suppresses the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain responsible for forming clear, explicit memories. It even prevents the birth of new neurons there.
The brain does this on purpose, right?
It does. In a true life-or-death survival moment, Mother Nature doesn't want you wasting precious metabolic energy memorizing the beautiful color of the tiger's fur or the exact layout of the jungle. She just wants your amygdala to record the sheer terror so you run away next time.
But today, that same mechanism means your amygdala is burning hot, recording the emotional fear of, say, a stressful work environment as an implicit memory. But your hippocampus is shut down, so you don't form a clear, explicit memory of the context.
Yes, the emotion is detached from the facts.
This perfectly explains why we can walk around with generalized anxiety. We just feel this constant dread or trauma in our bodies, but we can't logically remember exactly why we feel that way.
It keeps you living a life on simmer. That chronic state of low-level stress lowers your baseline dopamine and serotonin.
It feels terrible.
It does. This leads directly to depressed moods, apathy, and a host of physical issues like stomach ulcers, weakened immune responses, and long-term heart disease.
Okay, so if we are carrying around a negativity-biased, second dart-throwing, cortisol-pumping simulator, how do we actually stop it from destroying our health?
The neurological solution relies on the other wing of your autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS. This is your rest and digest system. It cools the body down and restores equilibrium.
I picture it like a playground seesaw. When the sympathetic nervous system goes up, the parasympathetic nervous system goes down. So is the ultimate goal of all this Buddhist mindfulness to just permanently pin the seesaw down on the PNS side, just achieve total zen and completely sever our reactions to the outside world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, shutting down the SNS entirely would be a complete disaster.
Wait, really?
Yeah, you would never have any passion, any drive to create, and you certainly wouldn't survive an actual physical emergency. The optimal, healthy state the source material points toward is a baseline of strong PNS arousal, a resting state of peace and ease combined with mild SNS activation to give you enthusiasm and vitality.
Oh, I see.
You only want those massive SNS spikes for true, literal emergencies.
Okay, that makes sense. To get to that baseline, the text maps out a path of practice built on mindfulness, virtue, and wisdom. And it aligns beautifully with the 4 stages of learning any new skill.
The 4 stages are crucial here.
Stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. This is when you are yelling about spilled milk in the kitchen and you don't even realize you're overreacting. You are completely lost in the simulation.
Stage 2 is conscious incompetence. This is arguably the hardest, most painful stage. You know you are overreacting to the spilled milk.
You feel yourself squirming inside.
Exactly. You recognize the absurdity of your anger, but the neural pathways are so strong you just cannot stop yourself from complaining anyway.
I know that stage intimately. It is miserable to watch yourself behave badly in real time. But if you keep practicing mindfulness, you eventually hit stage 3. Conscious competence.
The tipping point.
Right. The irritation arises when the milk spills, but you don't act it out. You catch the second dart in your hand before you throw it.
Beautiful.
And finally, you reach stage 4. Unconscious competence. The milk spills and the angry reaction doesn't even bubble up. You just calmly grab a paper towel.
But getting from stage 2 to stage 4 requires physically changing the structure of your brain. And one of the most powerful tools for doing that, according to both the neuroscience and the Buddhist philosophy, is self-compassion.
Which sounds a bit fluffy, but it's really not.
It's pure biology. It's not about wallowing in self-pity. It is simply extending the same warmth and understanding you would give a good friend to yourself. When you practice self-compassion, even doing something as simple as placing a hand warmly on your cheek or over your heart, you activate the insula in your brain and release oxytocin. You are literally bathing your neural networks in soothing, repairing chemistry.
It is what the text refers to as the law of little things. Just as countless little moments of greed, hatred, and unexamined fear built the anxious neural pathways you have right now. Lots of little moments of practice, like a deep intentional breath here, a moment of self-compassion there, will slowly, fundamentally rewire your brain for happiness.
It's the daily repetitions that matter.
So, to summarize this incredibly dense journey for you, yes, pain is an inevitable part of being alive. First darts are going to hit you and your picket fence boundaries will be crossed. But suffering, the lingering, devastating misery, is optional.
Absolutely optional.
By understanding that you are a deeply interconnected piece of stardust, by recognizing that your ancient amygdala is basically Velcro for the bad and Teflon for the good, and by catching those second darts before you throw them at yourself, you can use the law of little things to rebuild your mind from the ground up.
It is a deeply empowering realization. But this exploration also leaves us with a provocative thought to ponder as we navigate our daily lives.
What's that?
Well, if our brains are truly this incredibly plastic, and if our current baseline of suffering is largely a psychological hand-me-down from ancestors dodging predators in the Jurassic period, We have to take a hard look at the environment we are marinating in right now.
Right.
What kind of evolutionary psychological template are we actively wiring into our brains today with our modern, chronically stressed, screen-addicted 247 notification habits? What kind of internal simulator are we building for the humans in the future?
Oh, wow. If that internal alarm is constantly flashing today, we really need to look at the fuel we are putting in the tank. You have the power to diagnose your own mind, to understand the machinery, and most importantly, to stop throwing darts at the dashboard. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.